Hey, remember when I used to tell road stories about actually being on the road and playing shows and that sort of thing? That was fun, right? I hope to be able to do something like that again, you know. These days, all my road stories are about traffic and trying to get to other people's shows, and I've got another one of those for you this week, okay? And once again, there was something special waiting beyond the frustration. A few weeks ago, it was the magnificent war on drugs. Last weekend, it was Papa 4 and Ghost. And I'll tell you all about it on the other side. Hello, you're listening to the John Huff Podcast. Oh, yay. So I thought I'd get really clever about it this time, okay? If you've been following along, a few weeks ago, went to see the war on drugs in Toronto, got myself wrapped up in a massive stow on a major Ontario highway. Turned into a bit of a crisis, man. You can hear all about that. You go back a couple episodes. So this time, I'm heading fundamentally to the same place with fundamentally the same program, okay? Not gonna drive into the city. Gonna stop at a GO station, jump on, take a pleasure cruise, okay? But last time around, the Stau on the 403, those who have not listened to the episode, a Stau is the German word for a traffic jam. Big Stau, big problem. So I thought this time, let's avoid the potential for a Stau, and let's avoid the kind of tension and anxiety that can come with just being on one of those psychotic major highways, because they're all so crammed with traffic now. And trucks, and brake lights, and construction, and it can be chaos on those highways, man. It can be stressful, zu stressig, and I ain't into it, man, so I thought, let's do it the clever way. Let's do the back roads route, get to the GO train station in Burlington, Aldershot, right? That's the one, man. You hop on that, you're an hour right into the X, which is where I was heading to see Ghost, man. So we're going to take the back roads this time, though. All right, going to avoid the major highways, going to avoid the staus and the construction and the chaos. Going to take, a much more relaxed approach. So I plugs it into the GPS, want to go to Aldershot from L-Town. Don't want to go on the major highways. Take me there, Natalie. You'll know that my GPS is called Natalie. Don't worry, we had Chase, the drunk Australian, sitting in the passenger seat. So off we go, and right off the bat, it's angling us in a direction that to me and to my spouse or significant other seems a little bit extravagant. Let's say it seemed a little extravagant to be going where we were going. Heading kind of north, and we want to go kind of east, But we follow it. I have faith in the technology. I have faith in Natalie, and she takes us off on this route. And we're driving, we're turning left, we're turning right, we're taking this highway, we're taking that highway, okay. Behind a tractor. This is the problem. This is the compromise you make, all right? Either you go on one of the major highways, what would be in Canada, die Autobahn. I believe it's actually die Autobahn and not das. Don't want to, split hairs over that kind of stuff in Deutsch. I'm not a Deutsch speaker, but I'm learning. Ich lerne. The compromise you make is you get behind a tractor and you go behind a tractor, or you get behind a transport truck, or you get behind just a slow guy. Lots of slow guys on these highways. And this is the compromise you make. This is the trade-off between speed and comfort, So you have to sacrifice a bit of your speed to enjoy the comfort of not being in the chaos of those highways. Okay. And then we turn here, and then we turn there, and then we go over a hill, and then we're in this town, and we're like, at a certain point, we're like, where are we, man? Like we're sneaking up on Kitchener-Waterloo here. This is not where we want to be, you know? Nothing wrong with KW, but it's not where we want to be. You know, I know personally I've taken routes that are just less extravagant than that. We don't have to go that far north, you know? Like, I don't know, it didn't make any sense. And then we're starting to get antsy. Starting to get a little bit antsy because there's an efficiency factor that matters. Now, I'm following the GPS and it's telling me it's going to land me at Aldershot at a certain time. And I still believe her. I still have a lot of faith in Natalie, okay? My wife's getting a little bit antsy. I'm getting a little bit antsy because this route that we're taking is not efficient. It may land us there. It may land us where we want to go, but there's a human part of me. There's a human part of all of us. It's like, this is not the most efficient way to do this. The most efficient way is probably just to get on the 401 to go to the 403. Again, we're trying to avoid that. But there's got to be a more direct route than this. And we're like, where are we going? We're kissing the underside of Cambridge. It's like, this is not where we want to be. And then I've got my wife kind of looking at her phone, trying to trace the route. And it's like, this doesn't seem to be taking us where we want to go, man. Long story short, we keep going. Eventually, we find ourselves somehow in Burlington. This is not the most efficient route, and that makes us twitch. Makes us twitch to not be taking the most efficient route. And I'm trying to enjoy the scenery, all right? It was a lovely day. The cornfields are beginning to yellow just a little bit. You know, there's a splash of color here and there in the trees. I like the fall, you know, such as we have one here. It's very short, but it's nice. It's just beginning to creep in. I'm trying to enjoy the views, trying to enjoy the small towns. We saw some cows, saw some horses, saw a couple of ponies, saw a dog. And you don't see those things on the 403 unless they've been hit by a truck. You know what I mean? Trying to enjoy that, but still twitching about the efficiency. And that's something I got to work on about myself. You know, the destination is not as important as the journey, kids, but sometimes the destination's really freaking important. And we had train tickets and we needed to get on that thing and get on in to see the ghost show. Eventually we land at Aldershot somehow. We're like, okay, we found it. This is not the most efficient route. It's making us twitch, but we got here and we pulls into the parking lot at Aldershot and damn it, if there wasn't a parking spot anywhere, like you get, you know, if you've been driving long enough, if you've done enough parking lot work, you know, you get that spidey sense when you begin to see cars just sort of going up and down aisles. You see this at Christmas time at the mall. Cars just going up and down aisles, and you're like, I recognize that. I recognize that pattern of behavior. That pattern of behavior says they're looking for parking spots. If you see one guy and he's looking for a parking spot, you're like, all right, it's busy in the lot. That guy just pulled in. He just hasn't found his spot yet. You see 6 or 7 people doing that up and down the aisles thing. You think, uh-oh. And then you look across the street from the parking lot where there's just grass and an embankment, and you see cars parked up on the curb on the grass across the street, and you see trucks that have just pulled up onto medians and parked there, and you think, uh-oh, we got ourselves a problem. And then, you know, just like a classic movie thing, you know, if you want to add drama and tension to a story that hasn't got much, put it on a stopwatch, man. Put it on a time deadline. And we had one. We wanted to catch a certain train, and the minutes were ticking away as I'm doing the float up and down the aisles thing, becoming increasingly frustrated and increasingly just a little bit panicky. You know, since I had my anxiety issues a couple years ago, things tip me pretty quick. I can admit that to you already. It's a thing I recognize. My emotions are a little bit raw, okay? And when stuff goes awry, I tend to go a little bit awry too. So I'm trying to keep a lid on it. My wife has ideas. I've got ideas. Pull up onto the grass, she says. I'm not pulling up onto the grass. There's a guy over here who I can see getting towed, and we don't know if his van just conked and needed to be towed to a repair place, or if he parked illegally and they're just getting him. I'm not risking that. I'm not coming back in the middle of the night after this show to find that my car's been towed somewhere. So I'm like, no, we can't park illegally. There's no place to park. We're going to miss our train. And you can feel the elevation just building up. You know, I talked about what masters the war on drugs are at building and then exploding tension. That's great at a rock show. Not so great in your car, man. So we've got to keep a lid on this, got to pull it together. Driving around in circles for I don't know how long. No spots. How are there no spots? What is going on where there are no spots, all right? They send this message. We need to use public transportation, all right? We got to ditch the cars and use public transportation for the good of the environment. I can get behind that. I'm with you. I'm down. I'm hip. How you going to use the public transportation if there ain't no freaking place to park? How is this lot full? Not one single parking spot anywhere. And we're doing like parking spot musical chairs. Cars driving around in circles, just hoping for the music to stop, AKA somebody backs out of a spot and drives away. Can't count on that, man. Can't count on that when the train you want is like 10 minutes from leaving. You got to do this, and it's frustrating, and it's pressurized. And already, I'm like, we avoided the staus. We avoided the construction. We did it right. We took a cockamamie route. It was a little bit of an adventure, but we got here on time. And now we can't park anywhere. Come on, man. Toronto, go system. Fix it. All right? This is not okay. But we got to do something about it, all right? We're human beings. We're adaptable. We're adults. What are we going to do? My wife wants to park illegally. I just can't do it. I can't risk it. So we're looking at the map. We're like, where's the next station? Where's the next station? Let's try to get there and hope and hope. So off we go on another adventure, trying to find the next GO train station. And in the back of your mind, it's like, whatever's going on that's got Aldershot jam-packed, is it going on at the next place too? Like, we could have to just drive in. The ultimate thing to avoid is driving in. We can do it. Done it lots of times. Can do it again. Not a big deal. Don't wanna. Want to take a pleasure cruise. And plus, we also purchased the freaking GO train tickets, all right? That's $50. Don't want to waste that. You know, that's also an efficiency thing. Off we go. We drive to the next station. It's Burlington. And okay, there are parking spots. We take one. We get on the train. We don't know if our tickets are going to work because they're not from where we ordered them from. Nobody bothered to check, so we're okay. And then the pressure started. We get on the train. The pressure starts to come down just a little bit. I'm annoyed with myself for having freaked out to the level I did inside. Contained it. Still didn't like the reaction. But that's life and that's growth, okay? I'm rebounding from an anxiety thing. Things get a little bit raw. I'm working on it, all right? It's okay. We get on the train, and don't I see the ghost t-shirts? And at the back at Aldershot, when I was driving around, trying not to lose it, there was a person dressed up a little bit like Papa 3. This is the thing about Ghost, man, is the drama on stage leaks into the audience. So you go to a ghost show and you'll see people in the full face paint. There wasn't as much as I was expecting. Last time I saw Ghost, there was like a full Papa 1 in full regalia walking around. People are getting their photo with him. And like nurses dressed up like Sister Imperator. Like, it was really full on costume time. It was cool. This time, not so much. We were destined for the Coca-Cola Coliseum. Those of you who've been around T-Dot, that used to be Rico Coliseum. It's on the grounds of the X. It's right across the highway from Echo Beach, where I saw the War on Drugs a little while ago. Same train station, same spot. The X is over now, so there was not a people stau, except for the thousands heading into the ghost show, and there were thousands. Maybe 4,000 of us, something like that. Difficult for me to go to the Coca-Cola Coliseum because it is, of course, the home of the Toronto Marlies. That is the farm team of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and all those blue leafs everywhere kind of turns my stomach, makes my skin crawl just a little bit as a Montreal Canadiens fan, all right? But I'm willing to put that aside. I made that compromise, made that sacrifice for Ghost. Thing is, you get off the train, walk up the platform, head into the grounds of the X, and right off the bat, there's a dude selling knockoff Ghost concert t-shirts. Do not purchase shirts from dudes outside the venue selling knockoff shirts for $20, okay? Those are not officially licensed products. That is not official Ghost merch. Those people made those shirts. They are contraband. They are black market. They might look cool, but they're stolen. That's a person, group of people stealing Ghost's image, stealing Ghost's trademarked logo, etc., putting it on t-shirts illegally and selling them illegally. Do not purchase those. I know the shirts are $50 inside, but that money inside that you pay for those shirts actually puts food on Tobias Forge's plate, all right? It pays for the exorbitantly priced gas that they're putting in those vehicles to do this tour. And tour buses are a crisis right now, okay? There are tours being canceled all across North America because bands can't get their hands on tour buses. I don't know why this is happening. It's something to do with the pandemic. And the other side of it is, if you can get your hands on a tour bus, the prices have gone through the roof, like the prices of everything else, all right? The margins are slim on these tours to begin with. You get gas at $1.50 in Canada. You get an extraordinarily expensive tour bus. It didn't used to be that expensive, but all of a sudden your margins are shot. You're going to go out on the road, you're going to play these shows, you're going to come home freaking dead broke, and bands just won't do it. People can't afford to do it, man. There is a crisis happening still in the music scene. So go inside and buy your shirt there. Do not buy it from the rip-off illegal merchants outside, all right? That is my public service message as a person inside the music industry, okay? Those are knockoff shirts. They are illegally created. They are illegally sold. And you're just lining the pockets of people who are ripping off the band that you're going to see. We go inside, and okay, this is going to be cool, man. This is the second time I've seen Ghost. I saw them at the Sony Center in 2017 on the Pale tour named Death. And it was freaking fabulous, all right? This is a band working at the highest freaking level. So we go inside. Had a couple of options ticket-wise here, all right? You could do general floor admission, or you could do the seats, assigned seats, up in the stands of the hockey arena, okay? Didn't go for the floor seats for a couple of reasons. Didn't know if there was going to be a kind of a maelstrom out there that I just don't want to be part of, because the opening bands were Spirit Box and Mastodon. That stuff can, and people tried to make it, get a little bit wild. And that's just not my bag, man. I've talked about this before. Want to watch the show. Don't want to look over my shoulder for people's boots. Want to watch the show. And the other problem is that my spouse or significant other, not being excessively tall, has trouble seeing on the floor. Like, I saw a couple of guys from my spot in the bleachers that were the hugest people in the world. There was one guy who was just head and shoulders taller than everybody, wading through the crowd, and he's wearing a cowboy hat on top of it all. Add another 4 inches to like 6'7" or something like that. And he just sort of marches his way up there and stands in the middle. And the people behind him can't see anything, you know? This is the situation you find yourself in sometimes. And I didn't know how packed it was going to be. I didn't know if it was going to be a situation where there was just no place where you could get a vantage point, or you could feel like you had just a little bit room to breathe. So I opted for the seats at what wound up being kind of the side of the stage, a little bit towards the middle. You could have a bit of an angle on the stage. And I got a little bit worried because as soon as we sat down, Spirit Box was already playing. And Spirit Box is a cool band, all right? They're metal, kind of a new metal sound. They are Canadian from BC, I think. Female vocal. A lot of the screamy stuff, though. A lot of the new metal kind of screamy, not really my bag. I can take a little bit of that. Sometimes it's cool. Not always my thing, though. But they were a cool band. I liked them. And they had a vibe, and they were pretty heavy, and people were into it. You know, the first band of 3 often doesn't have anybody listening. They're often playing to nobody. And that's why I always say, make an effort to go see the opening band, because you don't know, especially if the local band if the opening band is a local, you don't know that their dreams are coming true right before your eyes. To play a stage like that with an actual audience, and then you get out to play and there's no audience, that's a little bit soul destroying. Will box your spirit. You know what I mean? Go see the opening band. Go see the opener for the opener. But Spirit Box is like a legit band. They're from BC. They've been on this whole tour and crushed it, man. I don't really dig on that style of vocals. There is a technique to it. Morgan Lander of Kitty once told me she would teach me how to do it. She does it as well as anybody. And so I would like to take her up on that, just for the sheer experience of learning what's involved there. Serious technique. They were cool, and I liked their vibe. It was kind of dark, new metal-y stuff, a little bit technical, and then this female vocal, screaming kind of vocal over top. They were cool, and the audience liked them, by the way. But they've got the front, maybe quarter of what the stage turns out to be. And they've got it's blocked off behind them. On top of what's blocking them off is there's a drum riser on top of that for the next band, which was Mastodon. So Spirit Box has got just a little front of the stage. That's how it goes, right? They sounded okay. They sounded pretty good. And a little bit of stage, and they played, and then they went away. And then they strike their stuff, drums, etc. Open up a slightly bigger stage for the next band, which is Mastodon. But I'm watching this because from where we are, our vantage point in our seats, we're at the side of the stage. I'm like, are we going to be able to really see much? And the speakers seem to be kind of out beyond us, and it seemed like it was not going to be okay. And then I'm kind of watching them strike the set for Spirit Box to bring on Mastodon. And then I realized that there's kind of a wall behind Mastodon too. And then the stage goes for a quarter of the arena behind them to where the Ghost stage actually is. And that's the faux stained glass. If you've ever seen Ghost live, their set is so dramatic. The music is so dramatic. The show is so dramatic. And these fake stained glass wall hangings behind them are just wow. Then I realized that they're way down there. They're going to have a massive freaking stage here. So maybe we're going to be okay in terms of vantage point. So I've never been the world's biggest Mastodon fan, but if you are in the drumming community, then you know Brandaler. Brandaler, one of the most celebrated hard rock metal drummers of our era. And I didn't realize Brandaler is such a great singer. I had no idea that he sings a lot of their music. Very, very cool as a singing drummer to see a cat doing that. But that dude is a machine. Absolutely great player. Really technical. Mastodon, if you have not listened to them, and I haven't a lot, I'll confess that. It's metal. It's very technical. It's a little bit Tool. It's a little bit Clutch. So there's some stoner happening. Very, very shifty. At least what they played live, there was not a lot of groove being laid down. It was very math, very technical, a lot of time changes, a lot of stuff jumping around. And from a sheer proficiency perspective, wow, those cats are players, man. And there are a lot of people wearing Mastodon t-shirts in the audience, by the way. They have a massive following. This is one of the biggest metal bands of the last 20 years, probably, Mastodon, right? And so they come out to play, and my feeling is that I could probably like Mastodon quite a bit. I can't say that, 100% affirmatively, because I couldn't freaking hear what Mastodon was playing. And it was not a volume issue. They were plenty loud. It's just that the sound was so bad that I quite literally half the time couldn't make out what Mastodon was playing. It was loud enough that my wife and I could not converse, so I had to text her, "I can't make sense of this." And she sort of looked at me and nodded, it was a sound issue. And it made me worried for Ghost, by the way, because I'm is it just this room? Arenas sometimes are not great for sound, man. There's a lot of open space. There's a lot of hard surfaces. This is not a venue designed, and Ricoh Coliseum is old. It's not designed for rock concerts. I've seen other shows there. I saw Death Cab for Cutie there many, many years ago, playing with Franz Ferdinand, and wow, at a certain point, the arena alarm went off, like this huge bell, ding, 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 the fire alarm. And it just kept going and going and going. And at a certain point, Benjamin Gibbert's like, can somebody turn the effing alarm off? And the place goes, ape-s. And it just kept going. And then it went away and everybody cheered their heads off. And then 10 minutes later, it started again. And it was like, this was my memory of seeing a show at Ricoh, I was worried about the sound because Mastodon is playing and they're working hard. And I can't make it out. It's just a wall of noise. And it's not because it was too loud. It's just because the sound, I don't think it was even necessary. I don't know if it was the sound person's issue. Obviously, they were not given the full sound system by Ghost, so they're working with what they got. But it was so distorted, and I couldn't make it out. I could not make out a lot of what was going on. So I don't know if I like Mastodon or not. They're obviously killer players. And there were a couple of songs that I sort of got a sense of that I did like. One of which was Tear Drinker. I don't know if you've listened to the most recent Mastodon record, which is called Hushed and Grim. I checked it out a little bit. I know they played Tear Jerker and I liked it. And it was one of the more straightforward songs. Again, I like tunes that groove, man. And they may have them, but they didn't play a lot of that at this show. There was a lot of sort of kinetic, herky-jerky time change, really difficult technical stuff. I will never deny that those cats are players, man. They write some really intricate stuff and play it flawlessly. Not a lot of groove. Couldn't really jump behind it. There was a certain point they were playing something heavy, and a little maelstrom started in the middle at the front of the stage. It was like a pit of about 6 people. They were trying to get something going, and they just couldn't really get it off the ground, I was watching that thinking, But what I also noticed, and it's hard to tell when the opening acts are playing, but there was not a whole lot of people on the floor. There were, really up front was already kind of packed, even when Spirit Box was playing, because, people who are there to really see Ghost want to be up front. So they got up front, but there was a lot of space behind them. And I was thinking, maybe we could have done the floor. I don't know. Mastodon plays their set, played for about an hour. I liked Tear Drinker. I liked More Than I Could Chew, I think was the song that I kind of dug. Disappointed in the sound. Gotta be honest, I was disappointed in the sound. And maybe that's just me. Maybe at other points in the venue it sounded better. Probably in the middle it did. For me, it didn't really land. Too bad. And then they went away. And then I had this really interesting thing because a giant white sheet will come down at the Ghost show, right? So first I want to watch them strike Mastodon's stage. It became kind of like a pool. Like, how long is it going to take them to strike that stage and open up the Ghost stage, right? And it wound up being like half an hour. So I'm watching them do this. That's interesting. And I'm kind of watching it fill in on the floor a little bit. And okay. And then this big white sheet comes down at the front of Ghost's stage. So if you're at the front, you can't see what they're doing back there. But if you're at the side like me, you can. So I'm watching them do all the stuff, and they're sound checking and they're line checking guitars and stuff, building the set for Ghost. You can't see this happening out front. You can only see it from the side. So I'm watching. That's cool. All right. Interesting. I'm always interested in the backstage kind of stuff. Again, I'd much rather be on the stage than in front of it. I'm compelled by that sort of thing. Want to be playing the show, but if I'm not playing the show, I'd still like to be on the stage, just looking at it, just watching it all happen. So eventually the appointed time and hour comes and the house lights drop. Oh boy, and does a ripple go through that crowd, man. Ghost is an event. Ghost is an event, kids. If you've never seen Ghost live, it's an event, okay? House lights drop, and then there's like the white sheet out front is backlit, right? And about 10 minutes before the house lights dropped, they started playing, maybe 15 minutes. They started playing like choral church music. So organ, a bit of kind of, I don't know, almost Gregorian sounding vocal happening. Church music, like at the Catholic Church. because that's Ghost, right? This is the satanic church. That's the whole premise. That's the whole gimmick. So they start playing this church music, and that gets people amped. In a weird way, it gets people amped because they know what's coming. They know that Papa is just on the other side of the curtain. Playing the choral music. Then the lights drop. That ripple goes through. It's like a nuclear blast. You know, if you ever see a nuclear explosion, there's the cloud, and then this blast radius just levels everything. The lights drop at a show like this, and it's like that. It goes through the crowd. Whoosh. Everybody starts screaming. And then there's backlit on this white sheet. And then there's just a person in silhouette with a guitar playing the opening of Kaiserion, which is the first song on the new Ghost record, Impera, right? Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it's going to be the first song, but there they are. And then they play that guitar intro, and then the band kicks in. And there's like fireworks. Boom. One of those big booms. When I saw them before, they couldn't do pyro. They couldn't do the fireworks. They were not in a venue that would accommodate that. This time, the full-on show. And then when the band kicks in, the sheet drops. There's a boom. Big sonic boom. Levels everybody. Disorienting. This is a rock show, man. A full-on rock show. And then the band is playing. The set is incredible. It's just, they put so much into this. You got to appreciate that, man. The thing about Ghost is that if you go back, I've talked about this before, you go back and look at videos from 10 or 12 years ago, and they're just in a little club playing to 150 people in the full regalia. You know, it took enormous stones to do that in those little clubs when nobody knew who you were and what you were about. Like, it took a lot of courage to pick up this gimmick and do it full on, you know? And I think at the time, Tobias probably had visions of playing arena shows where they had pyro, where they had the whole thing, and where they had an audience, you know? And now here you go. You fast forward, and here it is. The time has come. And so it's a big show, man. And then they're playing the opening to Kaiserion. Everybody's going crazy, and then out skips Papa. If you're not a Ghost fan, I can't give you the whole lore. It's a satanic church. The figurehead of the church is Papa Emeritus. He's the singer of the band. There have been 4 Papa Emerituses. They've all been Tobias Forge on different album cycles, all right? We're on Papa 4 now. And he skips out because he's a little bit flamboyant, and everybody loses their mind. He's the most famous person in the room for sure, and it's a dude in a mask. And they play Kaiserion, and then they go into Rats, and everybody's just losing it. And I was relieved because the sound was so much better. They opened up the full sound system, man, and it was big and full and loud. And the difference, the really noticeable difference always between the opening band and between the headliner is just how much more clear it is. Mastodon is playing, and I can't make out what's happening. You know, it's just a wall of noise. Ghost comes on, it's bigger and it's louder, and you can make out everything. It's pristine, you know, and they played a flawless show. Just flawless. You know, this is the thing about bands working at this level. I've commented on it before. They just don't screw up. They just do not make mistakes. And some people say, well, yeah, but that just makes them machines. Doesn't make it, you know, there's not a human element in it. Doesn't matter to me. Flawless performance. Every one of those cats is an ace player. Willing to play behind masks. You know, you're not supposed to know who any of them are. That's been leaked, but they're doing this anonymously, you know, being in this flow, playing for these audiences. And I was thinking to myself, you know, what songs would I say were highlights? And then I'm going through a set list that I found online, and I'm like, well, Rats, Spillways, Seriously, Ritual, Call Me Little Sunshine, Watcher in the Sky, Year Zero, Dance Macabre, Squarehead. They were all highlights. This is the point. They were all highlights. You know, they've reached a point in their catalog now where they can put together a show that's just one after the other, enormous, great songs. You know, my favorite Ghost song is still probably Square Hammer on Sentiment. That was the song that really hooked me with them. I've talked about this too. I loved the image of Ghost from the beginning. And I liked the image better when they were more sinister. You know, the Papa 1, Papa 2 eras, Papa 2 in particular, just a evil, sinister looking lead singer for this band. And the band are all wearing like black robes and hoods. Like, it looked evil. It's become more of a cartoon now. Like, there are people there with their kids. I saw more than one little girl walking around with industrial strength ear protection on. It's family entertainment, despite the F-bombs and the lyrics about fornicating, etc. You know, it's become a family thing, and Tobias has been very deliberate about that. You know, the first couple records were much different from the last couple of records. You know, the first ones were metal records. They were a little bit raw, a little bit stripped down, but you could see the potential. You could see where they wanted to go with some of the arrangements. And then they've got more commercial as they've gone along. My favorite Ghost record is probably Meliora. And that was the third record, which was kind of the bridge between the simple, raw metal of the first couple records and what would become more commercial, more almost 80s sounding hard rock on the later records. You know, I didn't love the first record. I know that as a Ghost person, it's sacrilege to say that you didn't really dig Opus Eponymous. I didn't really. I like a couple of the songs. Conclavi con Dio is fabulous, and they play that one. Papa goes through a bunch of costume changes, all right? One of the things that Ghost has always done is they put instrumentals on their albums. Like, their records flow together beautifully. There's a lot of thought that goes into sequencing and telling a story on the records. This is high-level stuff, man. Do not be fooled, all right? And so they've got all these instrumentals, and they use the instrumentals in the show. Sometimes they'll just play a recorded one, you know, and it'll just be spooky lighting on stage as a transition. Or they'll actually play one of them live, and Papa will disappear for a costume change. He does 4 or 5 of them throughout the set, right? This is a big show, kids. It's a big show. When they play Conclavi con Dio, that's when Papa comes out in the full regalia with the big Pope hat and the cape and the robes, man, the full papal regalia. That's what I like to see. Now, it used to be, I think, that they would do the whole show in the full gear. Now he's like, he'll put on a jacket or he'll put on whatever, a top hat. Like, it's a showman thing now. It started with Papa 3. But Conclavi con Dio, they'll play in his full regalia, and he's resplendent. And it's visually so stunning. And to immerse yourself in this world, even though it's a complete fiction, is just kind of fun to do. It's like a superhero kind of thing. It's just fun to place yourself for a couple hours in this fictional world of this church syndicate thing where Papa is the head of it all. And the videos that they do online, the story videos they do, are so funny to advance this plot along of the Papas and the church and whatever. And the shows are really funny. Tobias Forge is a funny cat. And the character of Papa, especially Papa 3 and 4, are just funny. You know, charming, clever, witty, talking to the audience, being very fun. And there's a moment where Papa Nil comes out and they shock him to life and he plays the saxophone and then he falls back into his casket and they take him away. A lot of tongue-in-cheek, a lot of very funny. And you just watch this thing and you're like, how did you do this, Tobias? How did you make this happen? You know, and what really happened was when Square Hammer was released, which was on the Pope Star EP, and that was the introduction of Papa 3, Square Hammer became a huge radio hit. You know, I didn't love Opus Eponymous. I didn't listen a lot to the second record, Infestessimum. It wasn't until Square Hammer came along that I really started to get this band. Always loved the image. The music didn't really grab me until Square Hammer. And that became like a legit hit song. And it's a great song. It is so catchy. Just grabs you by the face. And I would hear it on the radio. I'd be like, who is this? I love this song. Then I'd be like, it's Ghost. Oh, yeah, it's Ghost. And then, you know, a week later, I'd hear it again. I'm like, who is this? it's Ghost. Oh yeah, it's Ghost. And so I went back, and that was the hook for me. Went back, re-listened to the earlier records with this new kind of positive, hopeful frame of mind around it. Still didn't love Opus Eponymous. Really came to love Infestessimum, the second record. There's a song on there called Per Aspera ad Inferi, which is one of my favorite Ghost songs ever. Such a great song. I mean, it pulls in all of this like choral monk chanting in the chorus. It's very dark, very evil, but tongue-in-cheek, you know. They pull in all this sort of Catholic-sounding voices. They do a lot of this. What would be a big choir of monks singing the choruses, you know. Per Aspera ad Inferi is one of those. And they didn't play it. They didn't play it at the show, which was disappointing. And they didn't play another of my absolute favorites, which is Spirit. Spirit does a similar sort of thing. It's the first song on Meliora. Didn't play Spirit. Didn't play Per Aspera ad Inferi, which is a little bit disappointing. But they played Squarehammer, baby. That was the last song. That tells you it's still their biggest song. It tells you Squarehammer is still the one. They used to open the show with Squarehammer. Now they've had other singles since then. They close it with Squarehammer. Place goes crazy. The show sounded fabulous. It was flawlessly executed. You know, I was watching them as they were building the set behind the curtain, putting down tape to mark spots on the stage. You know, here's your mark, here's your spot, here's where you gotta be. Spotlight's gonna hit you here when you hit that solo. You gotta be here, you gotta be. There's a lot to think about. Apart from playing what is in many cases some pretty freaking difficult music, man. To do the show, you've got to be in the right space. And then there are just these funny moments. There's a funny moment where Papa's about to introduce a song and he gets one sentence out and then the guitarist just walks in front of him and starts playing it. And Papa's got his hands out like, what are you doing, man? And there'd be moments where the guitar player would drift into Papa's space and he'd just kind of shoo him away. You know, there's like this interaction happening on stage, which is just fun to look at. This is a band that when you see the image, particularly in the early days, with the evil Papas and the robes and the hoods, like this looks heavy and evil as all hell, man. And then you go see them live and it's a game. It's a joke and everybody's having a great time and laughing and they're playing the songs. But if you pull that away, you know, if you pull away the artifice and just listen to the music, my goodness, man, if Tobias is writing all this stuff himself, he is a genius. Just hooks, just melodies, just stuff to grab onto. Really interesting parts, really exceptionally well produced. And it comes across live. There's a bit of tracks happening here and there, but for the most part, there's like 9 people on stage. They're making the sounds, you know? Fabulous show. Fabulous visually, fabulous musically. There was like a wall at the back of the stage set up. Like deliberately, like these little, how would you describe them? I don't know. There's like these little square brick looking, I don't know what they're actually made of. This line of them at the back. Brick walls. Not walls, like little huts almost. Like 6 of them along the back. You're like, what's that for? You can't even see them. And then fire just shoots out of them. Oh, yeah. Those are the pyro mechanisms. A lot of pyro, a lot of fireworks, a big rock show, man. Those still happen, believe it or not. I don't know if there's a grunge band that's ever used pyro one time. Ghost uses it. And back in the 80s, you know, when I was coming up, pyro was part of the show. You aspired to play rooms where you could use it. Then Great White used it where you shouldn't, and people died. So you got to be careful with the pyro, man. Could use it at Coca-Cola Coliseum. Ghost used it to great effect. Pyro, fireworks, big booms. Put you back in your seat. And it was just really great. It's just really great. And I had thought, you know, I'm sitting in a seat along the side. I had thought when the show starts, great, I'll just sit here and have my vantage point. But when the show started, people stood up. Like, can't see around these people. So we went back and we stood at the very top of the section. There's a standing room there. Little tables you can lean on. So we did. And we leaned on and we watched. Then we couldn't get a vantage point from there because people were in the way. There were speakers in the way. And then on this side of the arena, there was a camera pit There was a camera platform for showing the Marlies games. Why bother? Who's watching? So there's a platform with a camera covered up in black tarp. But we stood up on that for a while. Nobody in the way, could see just fine. Watching the show, sounds good, can see everything. Then doesn't security come along and say, get off that platform. It's like, really, dude? We're not causing any trouble. We're not in anybody's way. We're having a good time. Kicked us off of there. So we're like, this sucks. So we walked around the back because there's a section at the back of the building where it's reserved for wheelchair people or people who need accessible viewing, right? So it's standing room, but it's a wide open space with nothing in front of it. And it's at the top bowl, right? And you can see great from there. So we go and we stand there, and I don't know, I'm standing too close to something because along comes this little old security man. Back up, back up. Like, what? So I take one step back, and he's walks away. I'm like, really? Really, dude? Am I causing trouble here? Am I obstructing a single view? So then I wanted to get a couple photographs. Got to mark the occasion, And so I step forward again just to get just to get closer to the stage, that much closer to the stage. I take one step forward, half a foot. Along comes little security. Get out of the way. Dude, and I got annoyed. Told you my emotions are a bit raw, okay, since the anxiety. And I just wanted to pop this guy on top of the head. Like, leave me alone, dude. I'm trying to watch a freaking show. I'm not causing any trouble. There's nothing going on here that needs you intervening every 2 seconds. Go away. Didn't do that. Backed up again. Heaven forbid, I towed that line in any way. So security is a little bit anal at Coca-Cola Coliseum, all right? That's all I'm saying. And so the show ended. It was fabulous. We could have been on the floor. Yeah, this is maybe a regret of mine. When you're not on the floor, you don't have to deal with some of the BS that can happen on the floor, which wasn't happening. But the other side of that is that you do feel somewhat disconnected from the show, and I did. I like having my space, where we stood was good. There's lots of room, and that was okay, but I missed feeling closer to the gig. When we saw the War on Drugs a few weeks ago, 7 rows back, Adam Grandaciel's right there. You're in it. You're in it. You're part of the show. And when you take that kind of peripheral approach to things, you're less a part of it. So I felt somewhat disconnected from the show. That's my fault. That's a regret of mine. There was plenty of room on the floor. We could have gone down to the floor, stood on the back. Loads of room. It didn't have to be an issue at all. But hey, live and learn, man. Live and learn, man. It was a good show. Really enjoyed it. People say, was it better than the War on Drugs? And that's not fair. That's not a fair comparison, all right? These are two bands working at the very highest level, doing very, very different things. You can't really compare. The War on Drugs was either life-changing or life-affirming for me. I'm not sure which. There was something in that show that really touched me. And I haven't probably even, gone all the way through that yet inside. But there was something in that War on Drugs show that said, I want to do that. And I feel as though with a little bit of work, maybe I'm even capable of doing that. The Ghost show, I don't get that vibe because it's just not what I do. I'm watching the drummer play. It's like, yeah, he's doing stuff that's just not my wheelhouse, I don't look at the Ghost thing and think, I could do that and I want to do that. I do want to do it, but I don't get that vibe like it's actually kind of possible. Just not what I do. I love the rock music. I came up as a rock drummer. I have played in rock bands and I've done well at that. But I think my jam, I think my real wheelhouse is something somewhat different. So I didn't have that same kind of reaction to the Ghost show. But I watched it and I listened to it and I'm like, this band is so aspirational, so ambitious. What they've done is extraordinary. This music is extraordinary. The way it's being performed is extraordinary. The show is extraordinary. They deserve every freaking accolade they get. And you should buy the shirt from their merch table, not from the ripoff artists outside. So that's Ghost. It was great. See them if you can. And I didn't think, as ever, I didn't think I was going to get this far. I'm going to tell you right now, there's not going to be an episode next week, okay? Setting you up for that right now. I am on a very special assignment next week. It will preclude me from doing an episode, so I apologize now for that. I'll tell you a little bit about my secret mission, perhaps on the other side. Quick plug, I do have a Patreon page for this podcast. If you enjoy what I'm doing, if you get something out of it, if you get information, inspiration, education, or just a break from it all, man, listening to what I do, then please consider supporting me on Patreon, patreon.com/JohnHuffPodcast. $5 a month, one tier. Think about it as giving me a $1.25 tip for every episode I do here. Going to try to do something for the Patreon people this week, all right, in the midst of my little project. I'll give you a little bit of a lowdown on it on Patreon this week. So if you want to know about that, sign up to the Patreon and you'll catch the inside scoop. Don't want to support on Patreon? That's okay. Podcast will remain free and accessible where you enjoy fine podcasts. You can help me out by sharing these episodes. You can help me out by supporting on Instagram at JW_Huff, on Facebook at The John Huff Podcast, on TikTok at The John Huff Podcast. Please consider leaving me a rating and review. Kids, next week is my birthday. Next week is meine Geburtstag. You want to give me a present? Leave me a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform, okay? I would very much appreciate that. It helps me. It helps me against the tide of big money, big media company, big celebrity podcasts that are just crushing this space, squeezing out the indies like me. So do me a solid. Give me a little Geburtstag present. Leave me a rating and review on Apple or wherever you listen to the podcast. Please do that. Please share these episodes. Please drop me a line. Let me know if you like what I'm doing. Some stuff I should check out. Let me know if you listen to any of the music I recommend. And go listen to some Ghosts this week, okay? Listen, kids, I'm going to get out of here. I will catch up with you in a couple of weeks. And until then, remember, good things happen when you put yourself out there, man. Look at the story of Ghost. Go read into the history of this band and how they got from there to here, man. In the meantime, take care of yourselves and each other. And hey, I'll check you later. Yeah. Are you on the square? Are you on the level? Are you ready to stand right here, right now, before the devil? The devil's selling those shirts outside, man.